Hello and welcome to a very, very blustery Anglesey circuit. It's rounds 10-11 of the Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. We're minutes away from the race. It's going to be amazing. Bruce Winfield is on the pole. Max Hart is second. He could get some amazing points in the bag. He needs to catch up with that pesky Lewis Kent. I cannot wait. So many stories on the grid. Look out for Hugo Cook and a few other guys there. They've qualified ever so well. It's going to be amazing. Is it going to stay dry? It's definitely going to stay windy. Let's head over to Johnny Palmer in the comms box.
Thank you, Paul. Well, the weather conditions are slowly improving, I would say, ahead of round 10 of this year's Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. The 2.1 International Grand Prix configuration of Anglesey, no less. But it still doesn't mean that the sea's any further away from you as you head at top speed out of Church Corner and on towards the awesome Rocket, that two-element left and right corner. There's so many other technical corners on this track, though, and we will take you through them. I'm sure you were with us on our other stream for the Miltech Sport Civic Cup not too long ago. That was just a superb race, possibly a highlight of the year so far. And, well, if this race is as half as good as that, then we are in for an absolute cracker. The cars are already heading to the grid and team personnel ready to welcome them. This is straight out of the pits, and we must apologise for slight confusion at the start of the Miltech Sport Civic Cup, by the way, as to whether they were on a green flag lap or the start of the race. We know for a fact that these cars now have done an outlap round. Now they'll be probably changing the tyres diagonally to make sure that the heat from the fronts is transferred to the rears. And then there'll be a further green flag lap before we get round 10 underway. A man very much out of breath has just joined me in the commentary box. That's Paul O'Neill, who's hot-footed it from the pit lane. Very blustery down there, Paul, and this is something that obviously everyone's got used to now from the start of the day, because these cars have had a free practice session, they've had qualifying, so they should really know all that Anglesey has to offer.
Yeah, they should do, shouldn't they? Speaking to a few of the guys before, they're very much anticipating this. Max Hart is somebody that, you know, really can capitalise on the Kent being at the back. You've got Brucey Winfield on the pole in the beautiful Cupra there on the right, and there you go. There's Bradley Kent on the left. So quite far down for him. But even further down for his brother. So they were in and out the pits, weren't they? Didn't quite find out what had gone on there.
Yeah, and actually Lewis ended up having 2 laps deleted during qualifying. We did certainly pick up on one of those going. Max Hart had a lap deleted too, but he did very well then to kind of put that out of his mind, go again, and popped up on the front row towards the close. His car is 30 kilos heavier than Bruce Winfield's, purely because of very good results recently for the Irishman. The one peculiar one for me is Alex Kite, who was actually disqualified from the qualifying session, and that was because of a technical infringement. The sheet doesn't tell me any more than that, but he's had all his times deleted, and he's also got to serve, I think, 10 seconds on the grid. When everybody else goes, when the red lights go out, he's going to have to stay at the back in 11th position for 10 seconds, and then his race will start. So that's very unfortunate indeed. And he will start in the 97 car behind Lewis Kent and behind Jack Depper. We talk about the weights, and obviously don't want to delve too much into that because it just complicates matters. But Jack Constable does have a heavy car, and the question is, what can he do from 6th position, coming here off the back of one victory at Alton Park last time out. But we've got a real mixture of cars. The Cupra on pole position for Bruce Winfield. If I've got the right Bruce Winfield, he used to ride bikes, race bikes in fact, about 10 years ago or so. 29 years old? You've spoken to him.
Yeah, no, he is, yeah. But I only know him from Civic Cup from last year. He's the last year's champion, so...
We need to ask him about that at some later date to see whether he's got this hidden racing history on 2 wheels. Max Hart, who comes across the ferry from County Wicklow, and he says it's about a 15-minute drive once he gets to land again, this side of the sea. So a very, very local meeting. I'm sure he's brought some support with him. And, of course, rule change very recently in Wales, which means that finally the paddock can be open to all, and we no longer have to have restrictions. They've been a little later compared to England, of course, in this part of the world, adopting those rearranged restrictions, but great that we can be there now as well here in the Principality. So,
did you see then, Bruce Winfield's start? I will guarantee my house that guy is in the lead by 3 or 4 car lengths. His starts in that DSG Cupra are unbelievable. They've obviously got some way of getting that thing off the line very, very quickly.
Well, it was a 1:31.880, which wasn't quite as quick as he did in free practice, amazingly. Alongside him will be Max Hart, then Danny Crivet, which is a season's best qualifying. His best previously was in 12th position, so to now score third, mightily impressive in another Hyundai i30N alongside Dan Kirby. Hugo Cook and Jack Constable will start on the third row ahead of Bradley Kent, Will Butler, Lewis Kent with those 2 laps deleted, Jack Depper, and they all jump ahead of Alex Kite, who will be at the back of the grid, having to serve those extra 10 seconds in the Vauxhall Astra TCR. So a chance then to build more tyre temperature in. It's still going to be a pretty gingerly first lap, I would say, especially as you head into a very fast left-hander. It's nowhere near as fast as it would be on a flying lap, but you need a bit of grip on the rear. And then Church Corner, which must be full throttle, right, coming out of the banking? No? It's a bit of a feather?
Yeah, a bit of a feather in one of these. I know it's just a lift or touch of a brake in a Civic Cup car. You'll get a lot of understeer front axle not turning in. But yeah, that is a quick corner.
As Alistair Camp displayed, understeer in the earlier race and ended up fully on the grass. But I would think certainly on the opening lap you want to take it relatively easy through Church. Will you be given the chance to do so, though? Because these guys will be getting their elbows out very quickly indeed. The bright yellow Golf is that of Jack Depper, by the way, and Paul's just pointing out to me that the infringement for Alex Kite at the end of the qualifying session was ride height, so the car will have been too low. You get some rollers, don't you, that have to go underneath the front skirt often, and also the sides of the car.
Or Stuart Lyons' wallet, who's the promoter. But anyone,
that's got to be about 20 mil or 50 mil.
You wouldn't even get a double-decker bus over that.
No chance. No chance. Good luck with everybody else then in this race.
Good luck with my invoice being paid.
You should be all right if it's coming out of that wallet. Won't make it much thinner at all. So the mist again starting to descend around this place. I tell you, you get used to one type of weather and then within about 10 minutes it changes here, and the wind is blowing very strongly indeed, as you can tell from the turbine just out of shot on the left, and the marshals welcoming these cars back to the start-finish straight. Brilliant that we had not brilliant, but we should recognise that there was a minute's silence close to the lunch break here at Anglesey to recognise what happened at Brands Hatch. An awful day within motorsport, and particularly British motorsport, last Saturday in Kent. And we thank every one of the marshals that are here today, making sure that this meeting can take place as safely as possible. Green flag waved at the back of the field, and round 10 of the Maximum Network's Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy, and TCR UK gets away with a killer start from Bruce Winfield. You were right in that he was practicing that, and he gets ahead of the 2 Hyundai i30Ns. It's the second of the Cupras of Dan Kirby that slots into fourth, but already going high and wide is Max Hart to try and bag the lead. Not quite there, though.
No, Max Hart has already got the run on him. This could be for the lead as he gets squeezed onto the grass as they go into Church, and he had to back out of it. There's 2 things there. Brucey Winfield, to me, looked like he made a bit of a creep at the start, but I might be wrong, but also squeezing that competitor on the grass as Max Hart now is going up to Rocket. Is he going to come off the brakes and dive left? No, he's not. Winfield has it covered, but that was a big, big story of this race already. I can hear the clattering of cars into the back of each other at Rocket.
There was slight tag there for Danny Crivet, I think, from Dan Kirby, and that really gave Crivet a right old tank slapper. Plenty of wheel twiddling necessary to get the car back on the straight and narrow. Basically just nailed the throttle coming out of Rocket, and that brought the rear back around again. So it's the 2 almost eggshell blue Hyundais that are running second and third, but a bit of a distance now developing between the two, because scrabbling around for that third position is Dan Kirby, and also in the queue Hugo Cook and Jack Constable. Now, question mark for me about Bruce Winfield's race pace, as now out wide goes Crivet, I think that is, with Kirby alongside. Yeah, Kirby's got the place ahead of Crivet, though, as you quite rightly say, Paul.
Yeah, and I think Jack Constable, is it, that can maybe smell blood, so he's having a look down the inside. But it looks like it's already job done on the first lap for Bruce Winfield. But I tell you what, when Max Hart gets with him again, he won't be impressed with what he did to him on the grass there, and he'll probably try and get back past him in a more interesting way than he would normally.
Well, Max got a phenomenal drive. Very wide indeed goes Crivet, and out onto the grass, and I'm afraid that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 places lost for Danny Crivet, and Jack Depper looking to benefit from that as well. It's incredibly dusty out on track, considering we've already had plenty of track action today. Little bit greasy here and there as well because of the rainfall that's just in the air. Max Hart has started this on fire, just trying to look for a way round Bruce Winfield into Rocket. Tried to the left, tried to the right. That car 101 looks quicker than Bruce is at the moment.
It does, it's on its toes, but the front of that 101, if we get a good shot of it now, it looks like the radiator's got quite a lot of grass in it. Look at that, the 101. Quite a bit of grass in there. I think it's a cool enough day that isn't going to overheat. But this is proper tin top racing. This is good. This is looking mega. Danny Kirby is well up there as well.
He is in the principally white with the blue detailing Cupra. 35-year-old running in third position. Alex Kite did get away from the line, by the way, but 10 seconds down, as we explained, because of that ride height infringement. So he is running in 11th position as the noses of the Cupra and the Hyundai and the Cupra in third as well just go down on the track surface as they reach the bus stop. Across the stripe for the second time to complete then the second lap. 0.4 of a second is the gap, and again Max Hart, his car just seems that more edgy, more manoeuvrable heading into turn 2.
Yeah, definitely. It's very, very good on the brakes. Who's that? Oh, it's Constable. He's gone straight off, and I can see he's had a moment, I think, round turn 1, and then he's gone straight onto the grasses for the lead. Now, Max Hart, this is the closest he's ever been, and Winfield is going to have to defend straight away to the left as they go up to Rocket, because he knows how good Hart is on the brakes. He's over-defending. Can he get underneath him? Oh, he can't do anything about it. This is hotting up now.
But Bruce missed the apex completely, and that was deliberate. So he was then arriving at Rocket way over to the left to make sure that Max Hart couldn't turn in his slightly heavier Hyundai. What a moment for Jack Constable. Barely made turn 1 and then entered the banking section halfway through the corner. Could have T-boned at least 3 of them, but somehow managed to avoid and has gained places because of that. He's now running in 4th place, so we'll wait and see whether that will be permitted. No, that will have been at the line, won't it? So he's lost those positions since then. So Jack Constable probably losing out to Hugo Cook and to Bradley Kent, out of their hairpin, down the old the old pit lane straight rather, and down into the final corner. Again, Hart is close, but possibly not quite as close as 0.4 of a second this time.
Yeah, and I tell you who to keep a lookout for. The man who had the fastest first sector, Hugo Cook. He's just done the fastest lap of the whole race in P4. Hugo in the Audi RS3 TCR. You'll see it coming to shot now. Black and yellow car. That car is the fastest car on track as we are going. Amazing stuff from the 16-year-old.
Confirmation that Jack Constable did lose more places. He's actually come into the pit lane at the end of that lap. I'm not surprised, because that will have spooked him big time, arriving at the second corner of the track at a very peculiar angle indeed. The number 9 Audi of Hugo Cook, definitely one to look out for. Privately entered, but that's not halting his pace, not one jot. 4th position and really close to Dan Kirby. There is Jack Depper in the 33 VW Golf, and he has behind him behind Depper is Danny Crivet, who was up, of course, in the top 3 initially and lost those places coming out of the banking corner a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, and that's the fastest lap holder at the minute going through your shot in the RS3 Audi. Hugo Cook, headlights flashing. He's trying to give Kirby the hurry up, or is he trying to give him the come back to me, captain, and I'll stick you on the grass, my man? Must be weird racing against the 16-year-old when you're in your late 50s, as Dan Kirby is. Actually, he's probably my age, but anyway, he looks about 70.
Life's practically over, isn't it, when you get to your age and you get to Dan's age? Not a bit of it. I mean, come on, what about this racing? The timing screen does not care about your age as long as you've still got the pace. And Dan's raced all sorts of things. I remember in Porsche Carrera Cup GP. I remember, I think, Ginettas as well. And now really showing he's a talent in this type of racing too. Running in third ahead of Hugo Cook's Audi.
Yeah, so Brucey Winfield now sticks it to everybody. He's gone, oh my word, he's done a 32.2. That's nearly 3/10 quicker than Hart in second place. And he was actually 1.5 seconds quicker than Hart on that last lap. So Hart is dropping back, isn't he, in P2? Look at Hugo Cook. Is he going to make the corner? Of course he is. He's 16.
No problem. So could do that on two wheels, and he's on three wheels heading through the second bit of Rocket, but Bradley Kent's not very far away from nibbling at that rear bumper of the booted Audi. Heading now through the right-hander at Peel. The track really drops away at this point, and this is the start of the corkscrew on the shorter part of the circuit. But these cars this weekend turning left, plenty of curb being taken by both Hugo and Brad onto the Tom Price straight, and I think they're gaining a bit of time on Dan Kirby. This is the next fight to focus on for third, fourth and fifth positions as Bradley Kent. He's able to take a tighter line there through the hairpin. He gained probably half a car length on the Audi in front.
Yeah, Bradley's looking super fast now. I think there's going to be a lunge in a few corners' time on Hugo Cook to displace him of that fourth place in that RS3 Audi as he gets a decent run actually into turn one. But yeah, this is looking amazing. Look at that, he stuck another 4/10 on Max Hart, the leader, Bruce Winfield. If he'd have not got that covered off early doors, he would definitely not be leading this race, and it looks fantastic for him.
Danny Crivet's hustled his way in front of Jack Depper now to put the Hyundai up to 8th position. We know that car's carrying really good speed this weekend, as is Bruce Winfield. I did fear a bit about his race pace, but once he weathered the storm to Max Hart, he's now opened up a gap of 3 seconds, which I never really saw coming. Yes, you've got the difference in weights, and that car very tightly sprung indeed. Rear right wheel up off the ground again, and it's almost on its nose heading into the banking, I've noticed.
Yeah, that car, if you see it, compared to especially Max Hart in P2, the rear of that car, I know Area Motorsport do like an oversteery car to take the weight off the front axle. So when the car's oversteering, that's the rear of the car with no grip. So that takes the pressure off the front tyres, so they last longer. The car turns in better. As I say that, he understeers wide into the hairpin. But Max Hart really starting to struggle now, and Bruce Winfield has been absolutely brilliant. 2.9 seconds up the lead. What will it be after this lap? Because I've got to admit, that DSG car, and it is heavily weighted as well, they cannot get the weight out of it, as I was speaking to Bruce before, so they're doing a great job with that, and he's driving it absolutely astoundingly.
Two fights to look out for. Hugo Cook in 4th versus Bradley Kent in 5th, but Kent didn't have the ideal run out of the bus stop, the final corner that time through. Just caught a bit too much curb. It's still very dusty on the road on the inside of the banking as more and more cars bring that dirt on, and another one of the floppies there goes for a Burton. But the other fight is this one. I was just about to draw your attention to it, and our directors have done exactly that. So Will Butler ahead of Danny Crivet and Jack Depper. Crivet not long ago got ahead of the yellow Golf, and now that Hyundai is very close to Will Butler's power-maxed car care racing Cupra. This is the fight for 7th position.
Yeah, this is looking pretty hot. And tell you what, they're getting so close to that grass. You can see there, they're just running so wide onto the grass, and Crivet in the Hyundai i30N, he needs to be very careful that he doesn't run them rear wheels anywhere near that grass on the fast approach to some of these corners. It's definitely not the done thing.
I've no idea what that thing sparkling off the windscreen is. That must be sunshine, Paul. First that we've seen of it today, but I have said that Anglesey, once the sun is out, is a beautiful place to visit. and to watch motor racing. And the track virtually bone dry now as Danny Crevet thought about a move. He is going to go for a move, heading into the hairpin, and both cars go very, very wide, and that's going to allow Will Butler back up the inside. It's as you were.
Fair play. Crevet had a go, didn't he? But just locked up that unloaded right front, and that made the front axle just run out of grip. And best thing he did there was straighten up, release the brake pressure. These cars don't have ABS, and just let Depper across the grass.
He didn't have ABS. No chance.
Fair play. Well, I say none of the cars have ABS. The actual first car, Bruce Winfield, does have ABS. That's with it being a DSG car, that will have anti-locking brake system.
Gotcha.
Which he would have needed across that grass if he'd have done so.
Yes. Well, Jack Depper showing how hard he's pushing so that he doesn't lose touch with the two cars ahead, because that's a really close fight as we speak. 7th, 8th and 9th. There is a slight danger that Depper's going to drop away from it. Bradley Kent still trying every trick in the book to get ahead of Hugo Cook's Audi. We mentioned during qualifying that this does seem to be a day where those cars that can easily go, drivers can easily go outside of the radar, are really having a chance to show their stuff. And we've got Bruce Winfield leading, Hugo Cook with just about his best race of the season so far, but Bradley Kent wanting to reverse these positions. Down the hill into the corkscrew they come again. We're well over half distance now, and Kent still running in 5th, but looking for 4th from the Audi RS3.
Yeah, it's a bit of status quo. This could be a late lunge. Oh, it was looking. I'll tell you what, Hugo was wise to that. This will be a decent run, but he's on the outside for the final corner, thinks better of it. Hugo is, look at this, he's trying to make him defend to go right, and then if he gets down the inside here, that is an amazing lunge. Hugo, fair play, lad. You didn't shut the door and take us both out. Bit of contact, the run to the line, job done. Brilliant stuff, that.
Well, you can run the high line round turn 1, I will say. So the Audi, if he can stay there, that'll give him the inside line for the banking, and that's exactly what he's done. Superb stuff from Hugo Cook, and really fair racing, I've got to say. Bradley Kent all over the dirt there to try and muscle his way back in front, but they'll stay 4th and 5th.
Wow, do you see the touch of the brake lights? We were saying it's just a little bit of brakes as you turn in to get all the weight over the front axle to turn and rotate the car around that fast right-hander church. That was great. This looks like a big lunge. Watch this now. Kent will come out to the left, will he? No, Hugo Cook is driving an exceptional race. The 16-year-old has every answer to every question that Kent asks.
And you can overtake around Anglesey. There are a number of places to do it, but equally you can defend. And into Peel Corner, that's exactly what Hugo Cook is doing, with the 44 of Bradley Kent, younger brother of Lewis, who's the next car on the screen, I notice. Now, there's about 3 seconds between them in reality, but as these two hold one another up, there is Lewis Kent, who is leading the championship at the moment and looking to try and get to as many points as possible, obviously, from this race, but had a difficult qualifying. He's on 200 points before you count any drop scores, and everyone must discount their lowest scores at the end of the season. They do not count to your tally. Heading into the bus stop chicane goes that scrap for 4th, and meanwhile Bruce Winfield is still leading the race, and now nearly by 5 seconds. So Max Hart has tried early on, but just starting to fade compared to Winfield's speed.
Yeah, and he needs to be careful, actually, Max Hart, because Kirby is matching his lap times, and I think with the difference in the success ballast in the Hart Hyundai versus the Kirby Cupra, I think there could be more to it in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've got Kirby running on 0 kilos in terms of the extra ballast, whereas Max Hart's got 40, so that will start to take its toll, particularly now we're 3/4 of the way through this race. Really neat and tidy run through the second bit of rocket there for Bruce Winfield. He doesn't have the distraction of a car right on his boot lid, so he can concentrate on almost producing qualifying speed here.
Yeah, he doesn't have to look behind him, just looking forward. I've noticed a couple of flashes of the brake lights on the straights. A couple of the drivers telling me how serrated the exit curbs are, exiting the corners, so the next time they hit the brake pedal, say here at the hairpin, they're really struggling with a bit of a longer pedal, and Bruce looks like one of those people. I know he's a left foot braker, so he will be able to do that easily while keeping his foot flat on the throttle.
Neat and tidy exit for the two cars in 2nd and 3rd, Max Hart and Dan Kirby. Hugo Cook, though, with now the lights flashing from Bradley Kent behind him, but that won't faze Hugo. Still early on in his racing career, as we've mentioned, but this will be filed away in kind of a perfect, to now, touch wood Johnny, perfect defensive race. Because Bradley Kent has been doing a bit more racing than Hugo, so maybe knows a few more tricks. At the moment, none of them have been successful. And yes, the Bradley Kent car is still there in 5th position. Lewis not able to quite get in touch with that fight. And still Will Butler ahead of Jack Depper. So what's happened to Danny Crivet? Now he looks like he may be out of the race. 3 laps behind everybody else. Might have come into the pits, actually, or stopped out somewhere on track. So unfortunately for Crivet, who started on the 2nd row of this race, looks like no points for round 10 of the championship.
Yeah, but back to this man, the leader of this race, the leader of all of the laps, except maybe just a little grassy moment from Hart when he stuck him on the grass. That was the defining moment for me. If he didn't squeeze him, he wouldn't have got away with leading this race. May have got back past him in the lead, but it's been an exceptional performance by Winfield. But also Hugo Cook, he's been a star of this race.
He fairly shortly might have 2 Kents to keep behind him. That's a little bit wide though and too deep into the hairpin. That may allow Bradley Kent to muscle alongside on the right-hand side. But again, Hugo Cook, even if it allowed him to be alongside him, he would still have had the advantage going into the final corner. And actually, the Audi got good drive off the hairpin. So no danger just yet. 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go. And a lap time is taking, what, Paul, about a minute and a half? So we've got this one and maybe 2 more after this. Job not yet done for Hugo Cook.
No, it's not, but still, I've been so impressed with how he's driving. The only thing I will say is Bradley Kent brakes so much later than Hugo in front of him, as Hugo this time has a lift with no brakes into church, which is brave. But yeah, it does seem to me like the Hyundais have got the best cars on the brakes. They have so much dive over the front axle. When you see them brake, they just dive like a proper nosedive going up into rocket.
Bradley Kent on the ragged edge there of grip as he slowed the 44 car. Did well not to pile into the back of the Audi. It was all under control, I think. 2 wheels on the dirt, though, turning right at Rocket. That won't have helped his drive off the corner. And again, Hugo Cook can stay in front. Bruce Winfield nearly 6 seconds to the good now over Max Hart. But this is still very good for championship points for Max. If you're not going to win the race, make sure you finish in the top 3 ideally, and he's second. So we'll get 22 points for his efforts there. Turning right through the hairpin. Again, the Audi is under pressure.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Dan Kirby, we've not said much about him. The car after the 101, the number 4, is absolutely brilliant. He has done such a great job, Dan Kirby. He'll be cementing his 3rd place in the championship as Bradley Kent is actually finishing behind him. So great stuff from especially Bruce Winfield, but Dan Kirby as well. Kind of just under the radar, nice, quiet guy, gets on with the driving. But another podium is great after his win at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, I mean, he's pushing incredibly hard, but at the moment, the 2 guys ahead of him just have a bit too much speed. But 3rd place points, again, I mean, arguing the case for Max Hart in 2nd, it's exactly the same for Dan, because he is ultimately trying to catch Lewis Kent, who he will outscore in this race, and Max Hart, well, he'll lose a handful of points to him, but it keeps him in the right sort of area championship-wise as we head towards the all-important races towards the end of the season. Hugo Cook and Bradley Kent appear still to be in that order. So the number 9 Audi ahead of the 44 i30N from the Essex and Kent Motorsport team, who obviously run both of the Kents, Bradley and Lewis, with Will Butler running in 7th position. Only half a second ahead of Jack Depper, so that one might not be quite done yet. But for the final time into the hairpin, Bruce Winfield heading through that really difficult right-hander. But everything is nicely controlled for Bruce Winfield. I would say it has been since the start of the day with free practice, when he dominated that session with 3 times better than anybody else. And now through the final corner at bus stop and across the line, a delighted Bruce Winfield will take victory here at Anglesey in the latest round of the Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. Second position going the way of Max Hart, which is great for the championship, and third place for Dan Kirby, who really got stuck in the early stages, and then after establishing himself in third position, managed the race to the finish. He will finish ahead of. Now, what's happened to Hugo Cook? I am slightly concerned about the Audi, which may not have triggered the transponder correctly, or did Bradley and Lewis Kent get ahead of Hugo at the close there? It might have been a slightly wide run through one of the final corners for the Audi RS3, gifting fourth and fifth to Bradley and Lewis Kent. So my eyes are now trained on our timing screen to see if that is adjusted at all. But I think the fact that Hugo Cook has now seen the checkered flag cements that theory. So Hugo losing 2 places on the final tour, unfortunately for him, but Bradley and Lewis Kent will be the benefactors. Will Butler, Jack Depper and Alex Kite completing 9th, and in 10th position it will be Jack Constable. Sadly, looking like a non-finish for Danny Crivet after a best qualifying of the season so far earlier this morning. So real disappointment for Danny, but surely a shot in the arm to know that he's got speed this weekend in the Motus 1 Racing Hyundai i30N. So a slight question to be answered there regarding Hugo Cook. Did the pressure eventually tell? Was there some contact between him and Bradley Kent? Well, I really hope that it wasn't the latter, but we can confirm the finishing order now after the first Maximum Networks Volkswagen Racing Cup, incorporating Goodyear TCT and TCR UK. For the first race of their day, Bruce Winfield wins it in the number 37 car, and wins it convincingly by 6.3 seconds ahead of Max Hart, Dan Kirby and Bradley Kent. Championship leader Lewis Kent home in 5th position ahead of Hugo Cook, who loses 2 places on the final lap. Will Butler 7th, Jack Depper in 8th. He finished ahead of Alex Kite, penalised after qualifying, but he gets a 9th place finish ahead of Jack Constable and the retired Danny Crivet. Well, lots happening throughout that 20 minutes, and therefore a number of stories to be chased in the intervening period between that race and the second event of the day for those cars. We will have everything, of course, dealt with on our live stream, and with thanks to Phil Kinch, who's working remotely in Northampton this weekend, some latest news on the points, because Lewis Kent will extend his points lead to 216 over Max Hart, who is on 170 points. So I make that a 46-point advantage. Dan Kirby third on 161 points, and that is a first ever win for Bruce Winfield in the series. I have to say, I thought it probably was, but needed to get confirmation before uttering that sentence. So congratulations to Bruce, a first ever win in this particular championship. Join us later then as we mop up the stories from this race and look forward to round 11 of the Goodyear Touring Car Trophy. You can join Paul O'Neill and me, Johnny Palmer, for that later on. Bye for now.